So a couple days ago, Mr. Zach Martin of the Dallas Cowboys retired. Just wanted to get your thoughts on Dallas and their elite O-line, their one-piece away O-line.
The Great Wall of Dallas, you mean?
Yes. Where are they at right now? Does that change your expectations, losing a first ballot Hall of Famer like that?
Oh, man. Just like 6 or 7 short years ago, we were looking at Zach Martin at right guard, Tyron Smith at left tackle, top 5 left tackle in the league. Even last year in New York, like still some elite left tackle play. We had a handful of centers, including Doug Free, Travis Frederick, but it was just never a concern. You know, as soon as I started watching Dak in the pocket, it was never a concern. And because of that, like we had some elite run games with not elite running backs. Now we have some Rico Dowdle in the backfield, you know, averaging 4.8 yards a carry, and it has nothing to do with the O-line other than the one bright spot being Tyler Smith at left guard, who is absolutely a top 5 left guard in the league, if you ask me. I don't think there's a quick answer. I don't necessarily think we missed on both picks last year. In our first and third round, I believe, we picked Tyler Guyton at left tackle, who was the most penalized or one of the most penalized linemen in the league last year. He allowed, I think, 9 sacks and also had 9 penalties. Cooper Beebe at center was more of a bright spot. Center is not quite as challenging of a position as left tackle. I think first and foremost, Tyler Guyton does not need to be playing left tackle. He played right tackle in college, immediately made the transition, and nobody knows why.
Yeah.
Nobody knows why you would move him to the hardest position in one of the hardest positions in football, in the entire sport, from one of the more consistent, you just need physicality at that right tackle position. Right. I mean, he's 6'7", 300 pounds. He has all the physicals for it and just is maybe not quite disciplined enough for left tackle. I could see a shift from Tyler Smith from left guard to left tackle, but he still needs a deal next year anyway. So I wouldn't want to be absolutely banking on having him forever. Deron Bland's deal also coming next year anyway. If we still have any cap space after Micah gets paid this year, I know the salary cap just went up like another $30 million, which is
That's huge.
Great for Dallas fans. But is that going to go entirely to Micah? Is trading out of Micah an option? I don't think it's a great option for Dallas when you're probably going to have to say goodbye to DeMarcus Lawrence anyway. It's not looking pretty. It's not looking pretty at all. Because, I mean, Dak being a $60 million quarterback who demands elite O-line play to be an elite quarterback is just kind of unacceptable. He doesn't need a great backfield, but backfields are cheap. Backfields are very cheap in comparison to O-lines. And you look at consistently the teams who are in those conference championship games, other than the Kansas City Chiefs, they all have elite O-lines. Philly, Detroit, for the most part, Baltimore, for the most part, Buffalo, San Francisco last year. I mean, I know most of the credit can be attributed to Trent Williams, but he's still Trent Williams. He's still a top 5 left tackle, top 3 at least. There's not a quick answer. I mean, I think you can hope that with, I believe Clayton Adams is the offensive line coach who we poached from Arizona to be the offensive coordinator. You can hope that he'd bring that level of discipline to the offense as a whole and cut back on the penalties. But it's been an issue that Mike McCarthy wasn't able to tackle in 4 years. And I don't see an end in sight to the poor O-line play. I just hope it doesn't affect Dak to the point where he has to miss 4 to 6 games again. In years that he's been completely healthy all year, we're consistently in the playoffs at least. And without him, we're lost, especially without Trey Lance and potentially losing Cooper Rush again.
Yeah, I do have a follow-up question for you, but you make a great point about the backfield and how, you know, bringing back a run game to Dallas would be huge for him because, you know, I've mentioned the stats to you before, and this may not be spot on, but just relatively speaking, you know, when Dak throws like less than 30 times, his win percentage is comparable to like Lamar and Mahomes. He wins like 70-80% of his games, which is very commendable, but there's a formula. He's got to be a game manager. He's got to be, you know, the Jalen Hurts type role. Just let everybody else do their thing. And when he throws more than 30 times, it's well below 500. So the fact that they didn't bring in a running back last year and, you know, they passed on guys like Derrick Henry and Saquon Barkley, now what does the running back market look like? Are you going to go get Najee Harris? Is he the solution to your problems behind still a bad O-line in Dallas? Like, I think there's too many holes on this Dallas team to, like you said, make one move and all of a sudden they're in contention again. But my follow-up question for you would be, last episode we mentioned that Dak thinks that the Cowboys are on the same tier as the Eagles, excuse me. How are we feeling about that? Are we still thinking that? Because I told you I think that they're going to finish last in the NFC East, barring the Giants picking one of the top 2 QB prospects. So where are you at there?
I mean, it's not like the Zach Martin retirement was unexpected, so it doesn't really change a lot about what we anticipate. The limit is absolutely just whatever Schottenheimer is ever going to be able to put together as a head coach. I think he has a good coaching staff, so I think he's enabled himself to have the best possible situation with these crappy deals in Dallas right now. You have a $60 million quarterback, and you only have 4 years to make it work with him. It's not like the market's going to reset enough for that deal to look good. He's always going to be a top 5 quarterback pay as long as he's tenured in Dallas. CeeDee Lamb making $34 million doesn't help anybody. Micah Parsons probably about to reset the market or come close at end. And I mean, I don't think this year's the year. I think we might be closer than a 7-9 season, but even if we steal the 7-6 seed in the NFC, I don't think it's going to make a huge difference. And I think it's going to take some great development of young talent, including your Tyler Guytons, your Cooper Beebes, your Marshawn Newlands, DeMarvion Overshown. But I mean, there are a lot of deals that need to get done just to keep together the unit that strung together that 7-9 season without Dak. I don't think the money's there, and I think we're gonna have to say goodbye to 1 or 2 very important stars over the next 2 to 3 years to be able to be there in 5. Right. And by that point, you're gonna be saying goodbye to Dak again, maybe CD, having to reset the market again.
My question to you is, if in all likelihood the rest of Dak's career, let's just say 5-year period, Dallas will never contend. Their absolute ceiling these next 5 years is a 2nd-round exit. Do you even pay Micah at that point? Do you just start the rebuild now? Because if you know you're not in a Super Bowl discussion, Jerry has a weird way of doing things where he likes to do just enough to stay relevant and also, not fully commit to a rebuild or a tank. But do you? I mean, do you just say, Micah, you're one of the best edge rushers in football, but we're going to clear this cap up so in 2 years, you're not the top cap hit on our team and we can go sign somebody in free agency for, a rookie quarterback or whatever the case may be. You have the cap room to be flexible in 2 years rather than handcuffing yourself to this trio of CD, Dak, and Micah, where for the next 5 years, like I said, you're not going to go anywhere with them, but you're stuck with them. There's nothing you can do about it. So as far as a cap standpoint, where do you go? Do you cut ties?
I think the difficulty is that Jerry has had a great reluctancy to commit to a player for more than 4 years. And it's been that way for a long time. I mean, other than Tony Romo, can you name a player who hasn't, unless he chose to retire, stuck around for more than 8-9 years? Like Zach Martin retiring after 10 or 11 years in the NFL is probably the only reason he's not going to play 15 years for the Dallas Cowboys. Mm-hmm. But pretty much everybody else in the Cowboys organization has either gone on to get more money elsewhere, like an Amari Cooper, or just hasn't gotten the deal they wanted from Jerry, and they're kind of forced into retirement because they have to play 4 instead of 5 or 6. And the Cowboys draft really well, or at least they have more Pro Bowlers than almost anybody in the last 10 years of drafting, more All-Pros than almost anybody in the last 10 years of drafting. But, there was a time when Megatron set the record for the longest deal at 8 years. And he's a receiver. Like, what CD is. Dak is still kind of a question mark somehow 10 years into his career. CD is so incredible, and you're only signing him for 4 years. he didn't even quite reset the market. He didn't make the 35.1 that it would take to beat out Justin Jefferson. He's not making more than Jamar Chase is about to make. So why didn't you take him for 5 or 6 years? I mean, I know you don't want to have a receiver playing when they're 33, 34 for your team, but like, he is incredible.
He is.
Like a generational talent. And it's going to be the same thing with Micah. Micah, at a point in time, had said that he only wanted to play 10 years in the league. Now we're 4 or 5 years in, so it's kind of looking like he might want to flex that to be a little bit longer, especially if he is stuck in Dallas for the next 4 or 5 years. But why not get him for 6? So that when you clear enough cap of this Dak deal to trade him out, get what you can for him, you still have that one bright spot in Micah Parsons, in CeeDee Lamb, or your Oso Odighizuwas, your Rico Dowdles, and then go out and draft a rookie quarterback. Go out and draft your O-line. There's still a little bit of that vet presence, and they're chewing up a good amount of cap, but 3 years down the line, that's not going to be top edge rusher money. I don't see the downside in committing to your guys for longer than 4 years. I don't understand what it is that Jerry fears in a 5-year, 6-year deal.
I would agree with you, and I think it does make some sense to, I'm always saying, once you know you have the guy in the building, lock him up as long as you can. I would agree with you there. Kind of another side question here, but let's say Dallas makes the first round and they lose. Is this like, are you looking at that as a positive outcome this season? Are you looking at that as a successful year? Or are you looking at it as, wow, that's probably the best we're going to get under this Schottenheimer capped out Dak Prescott making a gajillion dollars era? Are you looking at it as, wow, this is something to build on? Or, well, that's the best it's going to get, huh?
I mean, it's an improvement from this year, obviously, for starters. But other than saying that Schottenheimer is capable of making the playoffs, what does it indicate about this unit that we didn't know before? They can win in the regular season. They're pretty good at that. It's the same team. It's really the same system. That was the appeal of the Schottenheimer hire, is that Dak wouldn't have to learn a new offensive system. He was learning it from Mike McCarthy. Schotty was there. He was in the pipeline. And he was the obvious choice for Jerry. Not for anybody else, but for Jerry. With that in mind, it doesn't change anything. It doesn't change any of the questions that we had about Mike McCarthy, even if Schotty does come out and win 12 games this year. It's just another Mike McCarthy 12-5 season. And unless there's some playoff success to go with it, that would indicate some new maturity in Dak's game, some new clutch ability like he showed in the Pittsburgh game last year, then I just don't really think anything is going to change. And you're just going to have to write out these deals until you can trade out of them or start to sign some new talent.
I would agree.